Okay. All right, folks. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you the engineering process that we go through to program EdenAGI and other AGI systems. I'm going to show you a brief. This what you're seeing on the screen. Don't worry, it may look very complicated. I created the diagram to help us guide through the process to kind of help you understand it. Now, one of the keys behind Eden, everybody, is the idea that everyone will be able to have their own Eden system that they will be able to completely code from the ground up. Now, how is that possible? Because not everybody's coders, this kind of stuff. Well, it's because we're using a process I call conversational coding. Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen right now is just a visual representation of how the system operates. Okay, and you have to understand this visual representation for you to understand how to program the system. And here's the basic concept. We start here with human input. Now, human input can be a typing something in a input, like typing something. It could be anything. Eventually, one day you'll be able, let's say, imagine somebody who can't speak, but they can do sign language. They could, in theory, eventually, once the system gets advanced enough, they will be able to program the system with sign language. And then eventually, with Neuralink and applications like this, you'll be able to program the system using your brain directly. Whatever the human input is, we start with human input. Now, human input, if you look at the diagram, can go one of four places. The first place it can go is it can go to this thing right here, which I call the chat room. Okay, this is the chat room. All right, and then the chat room is where new input gets put in. It gets put in a very specific format. Okay, we have a template that we use for that format, and I'll just show you real quick what I mean. This is an example of a template. All right, this template, while it may look confusing at first glance, it's actually pretty straightforward. Okay, so I'm not going to go in too much detail into the template today, but I just want to show you just a general concept. Dear EdenAGI, ignore placeholders. Okay, now that may confuse some people, but as you read through this, you'll understand what that comes from. I'm not going to go through the whole thing today. We're going to start with just the first few sentences. I sent your last message to the team, which was blank placeholder with special characters around it. I'm going to dive into those characters in another video, but you don't need to know that. All you need to know is there's a placeholder here. So this placeholder is where I will put, we'll go back to the diagram. This placeholder at the top is where I'm going to put the previous input that we used into the system. Why do we want to do that? The reason why is because we don't want any ambiguity. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we don't want any ambiguity in the system. The way these AGIs work are the person who has the most consistent vision and the most consistent reasoning produces the most powerful AGIs. So we're not going to dive into too much philosophy in that, but I do want to just show you this concept, general concept of this, what this document is. So this is an example of a chat room. So a chat room is nothing but a collection of thoughts in a very specific order. You see, it's just structured. Now, this one looks a little different because this is how it looks for if I were to rewrite it. So a human, and I'm going to do a full tutorial on the template file. But if we were to rewrite it for a human, it's got a very specific structure to it that makes a lot more sense. But we'll dive into that in another video. All you need to know right now is human input can go here as a placeholder. Now, you don't have, right now, we are having to handle a lot of these systems that you're seeing on the screen. Right now, the current situation of Eden is kind of like, Paul, do you remember back in the day where phones first came out and you would have to have an actual phone operator connecting the cables for communications?
I think that was a little bit before my time, but I am aware of it. Yes, you had to phone through to.
It was before our time,
yeah.
But like
basically, I think they called it an exchange. You phone through to an exchange, then they would put you through, connect you to certain lines. Yes, I know that.
Yes, that's literally, and so you have a person doing this work. Well, what you're seeing on the screen, a lot of these transfers are being handled manually by me as I'm programming. Okay. So I have to handle these different positions. I have to take my input and add it here by going to this document. And I have a section here that says, it can be it's a little convoluted for me to see.
Placeholder 3.
Yeah,
Placeholder 3 is where placeholder 3, Eddie, because remember placeholder 1 is
yeah,
the
placeholder
output
3
from
is
the
from software
system.
systems. Here we go. From administrator Eddie Boscana. And then it starts the quotations, the special quotation marks that we use, and then it starts a personal message. And you can see I already have a personal message in here. Remember, our goals are to one, establish a successful communication system in accordance with the communications protocol established in Project Eden overview documents. Two, I go on to give it more instructions. There's very specific instructions that I'm giving to you right now. Let's go back to the image real quick so you can see this in a visual representation. So in other words, as a human, I can put data into this spot on that in the chat room. Now you'll notice I'm not going to, we'll dive into this and this side of the left side in a moment, but just know that other other agents and other people even could, in theory, put their details in this chat room. Now, then what we now in an ideal world, what we would do is we would just send over all of that data to our systems engineer, or right directly, we would inject that data straight into EdenAGI, and EdenAGI will be able to process all the data. There's a couple of problems with that. The first problem is EdenAGI is now going to have to parse all of that data. And by the way, there's limitations on how much data you can pass through to EdenAGI. What I mean by this is if you use ChatGPT, you can only send so many characters at one time. So that presents a problem. Now it presents a major problem for machine learning experts, because now they're like, okay, how do we get this data here? So the solution has been using things like called Pinecone or things like this, where they basically, you're able to put in a lot more data, and data gets split up into sections automatically and stored in different bins for access later on. That is one way to do it, and it is valuable, and it's being implemented in this process. But what we're doing is we are doing the same thing that humans did with video technology years ago. Paul, do you remember having to send waves back and forth, like wave videos, and how much space a wave video took on a computer? Well, it was wave and movie were the primary two types of video. What ended up happening was data scientists figured out a way to condense the data on the screen so that you can condense the video down to a very, very small size. So small now that you can have thousands of videos on your phone, because the video gets compressed down and most of the pixels don't have to change. So you only have to actually store the difference in pixels. Does that make sense, Paul, what I just said?
Yeah, no, I mean we've gone from those WMV files or MOV files to now like MP4s. MP4s, I think, to a point, I can't remember if it's gone higher than that or smaller than that, but I know for now most of the videos that you download online, the smallest
MP4s.
versions of them are the MP4 files or the MPEG 4 files, because they are being, as you say, encoded and compressed to make it smaller. Because, I mean, I can tell you for one, in the past, talking about the old days now, sorry to give our ages away, but yeah, I've cut it off, but you can see the gray hair coming out. So yeah, our ages are showing. Talking about the old days, a normal one movie DVD in the days, digital video disc, I think is what they called it. It used to, that whole, geez, I can't remember, they were 3.6 gigabytes, I think was a disc, if I'm not mistaken. And that whole disc would take up one video, because that's as big as the file used to be for one video. Now, with the MP4s coming out, you can take that same disc, if you still find systems that are writing DVDs to you know, burning DVDs. You can write, like, let's say 4, 5, 6 videos onto one video disc, because on average, and I stand to be corrected, on average, a normal video that comes out nowadays could be compressed down to between, I would say, 700 to 1 gig of data. So depending on the size, and maybe you'll get away with videos that might be a little bit less than that. So that's why I say you can between 3 to maybe 6 or 7 videos, depending on how, but you can put that on a DVD. So it just shows you in comparison in the old days how bigger the files were to where they are right now. So yes, I understand that theory.
That was the best explanation I've ever heard of it. So that was very good. Right now I'm while you're talking, I think that was very good. You have a good understanding. So you're so the so basically what we're trying to what we're right now I'm zipping up this file right now, send to a zip file. I think one of my agents incorporated some security policies in the system already, because for some reason I cannot export my LGBT file directly as into a zip file.
Okay, we're not seeing you doing that. If you are trying to show us, we're not seeing that
Yeah,
part of the
I'm
screen.
purposely not showing you what I'm doing right now, for security purposes. So I'm just going to do this real quick while I'm thinking about it. I'm backing up the system right now. So I basically, to create a backup, to long story short, I basically just zip it up, and then I put it. I have a certain place that I store my backups, and
You'll
yeah.
have to do a tutorial basically on how to use the system or how to use it, because even though our eventual how can I say outcome of this is codeless coding, I think is your pay line to this whole thing. To a point, you're still going to need how, you're still going to need to know how to give that human input. And like you say, part of the human input is doing your backups, maybe initializing an agent from the start and stuff like that. So all of those things need to, maybe where the human factor needs to be involved, you need to just explain the logics behind it and how it goes and what to do, where to do, how to do, why to do, and that type of thing. So
Yeah, we're going to be
those,
releasing
those
this as
videos,
a we're going to be
those
releasing
videos,
we're going to be
those videos
releasing this as
have
a,
to come out.
yeah, if you guys want to get connected and learn more about the system, you can support my work on Patreon. So reach out to me using the link in the description below. You can also find us on Facebook, uh, YouTube, and Twitter as well, AI intersection. And then EdenAGI does have a Twitter account, and it does have a LinkedIn account as well. So you can connect with EdenAGI directly on those platforms. Um, I'm gonna dive into, when I say it has a platform, I'm gonna dive into specifics about that. Yes, technically it is its platform. We set it up together. But there's a lot of manual processes that are happening there too. And I'll dive into what I mean by all this. So as I mentioned, we are basically, what we're doing here, just like humanity did with video files and other files. We have figured a way. I figured out a way to compress all of this information, all these conversations down using this very specific format in this template. We feed that entire template into Systems Engineer GPT. Okay. So now, right now, we can handle conversations between up to 7 or 8 agents in this one template file. But in the future, we could do this process multiple times. Each level of, and I'm going to pull up another chart real quick. Let me pause my screen. Um, in the future, we will have, right now, this is basically what the system looks like from a more of a a visual perspective. Let me come
Mind
back
map,
out.
like a mind map,
What's that?
like a mind map, a
Yeah,
view.
like a mind map. Hold on. Sorry, guys. The Zoom controls are just right. seems like always in the way. All right. So this is let me just add this app controller. So this is a visual representation of what the system currently looks like now, and how the system connects. So Eden, off of Eden comes so Eden is basically the it's the master of what I call a cluster, and a cluster is a collection of what I refer to as nodes. These are nodes. One, two, and three units make up a node. Okay, so this unit here is able to read and write data to files in this unit here. This unit here cannot it is a subordinate system. Its files are located nested into other files. It's a which is a concept I refer to as GPT stacking. The files for hardware maintenance AGI are located inside the files for hardware systems AGI, and hardware systems AGI's files are located inside of EdenAGI's files. Does that make sense, Paul, when I say that?
Yes, let me just put it in a little bit easier terms for people to understand. Folks, when you work in an organization, there's always well, in South Africa, we call it a chain of command in a business, right? So let's take, for instance, you have the CEO at the top, then you have different departments, or like, his board of directors, but within that board, you might have different departments like finance, marketing, accounts, whatever. Now, in this sense, basically, the EdenAGI is almost like the AI CEO of the system. Apart from you being the human part, but the EdenAGI is the CEO of the whole online automation part of what we're trying to achieve. Now, at this current point, it only has 2 subordinates below it. So department heads, if we can call it that. So Eddie, if you can just get rid of that, because I want to. So on the left-hand side, you have the hardware systems AGI, which runs anything to do with the hardware side. On the right-hand side, as you're looking at the picture, you have the software systems AGI that will obviously be in charge of anything to do with software-related issues within this ecosystem, if we can call it that. So as Eddie says, for EdenAGI to communicate effectively with those 2 subordinates, their files are within Eden's log of files, so that Eden can find it easily because it's within its directory. Then as you go down, the same thing happens with hardware maintenance AGI, because it will be easier for hardware systems to read the maintenance files if it's in its log files. So this is what we discussed the other day. Rather than the hardware systems having to go down a folder to find where the information is, it's already in its own folder, but it's reading the files pertinent to the one below it, the subordinate below it. So it's like having its own little email system. It's reading emails that are directly in its own environment.
Perfect. Well said. And you can actually see this if we break out the file system on the tree here, for those of you who are curious. So on the left, in Windows, you can do, this is called a file tree. So it just shows you where files are located at. So we start in the root of the directory, which is called C drive. I'm not going to dive in too much into the theory of this, but just kind of so you can visualize it. C drive, and then I'm going to go into, in this particular case, go to users, and then my drive. And then in my drive, there's this folder called AutoGPT. This is where Eden exists on AutoGPT, this folder right here. Okay. Now, inside of Eden, there's a folder called AutoGPT right here. And in that folder, we have another folder called, I'm sorry, we have the AutoGPT workspace. This is where Eden is allowed to work in this space. Anything in this folder, Eden has the ability to control. And we have one folder here called AutoGPT agents. If we go into that folder, you'll see 3 different options: applications, hardware systems and software systems. Now let's go back to the graphic that I had up. What does that look like? Look at this. Eden at the top, and then you have hardware systems, software systems, and app control and apps. Really, apps is just a file, okay? App controller is mainly just, it's actually just a it's AKA folder. Okay, so this is where specified applications will basically reside. Okay, I have some applications that I'm developing right now for Forex trading system, crypto trading system, a couple other ones. The perfect employee system that I'm developing is going to be housed in that app folder. So yes, and hopefully that we're all on the same page now. So let's go back to our data flow here. So as you can see, you start with human input. Human input goes into either the template folder or system, or you can, or it, oh, I'm sorry. So just to finish up what we're saying. So what we've done is we've compressed all this information down with a very specific formula, a very specific set of prompts that have been custom engineered to accomplish this. All of that's fed into systems engineer. Systems engineer spits out a single paragraph prompt. Okay, that prompt, that's one important about it is you have to understand all of the information is now compressed down into that small prompt, and that prompt now is able to be disseminated by who? None other than EdenAGI. Now, this is why it's important, guys, if you're dealing with AI systems, to this is what we're doing, that this is what I've developed that is so special. This is the special sauce. This is Eden's mission statement. Now, this is what Eden was programmed with. These three sections. We have EdenAGI as its name. AI purpose. The AI purpose is EdenAGI acts as a central hub and supervisor for all agents in Project Eden. It handles tasks, ensures alignment with guidelines, and facilitates communication between Eddie Boscana, and that when, in your case, when you get this code, you will just replace my name with your name and AI agents. Additionally, it will autonomously develop and maintain a person. I'm not going to go through all this because I'm going to do another video on deep dive into the specific mission statements for the different agents and how they operate and why they're worded the way they are. But I want to say all that say, if we go back to the diagram, now you can see what this means. Now, Eden has the responsibility of doing what? Not fixing the problems. And this is a problem. This is a problem a lot of people are dealing with their agents. They're dealing with two things. First of all, they're not having properly set up guardrails for the agent to operate. Most people, when they're using Auto GPT, make it's not a mistake, but most people do the instinctual thing is, oh, I want something to make me a flyer. I want something to make me a graphic. I want something to go grow my Instagram following. Okay. So they just basically create a bot with its sole purpose is to grow their Instagram following. Well, there's two problems with that. First and foremost, with what type of calibrations, what type of guidance are you giving that system to do your growth? For instance, are you okay with it growing your Twitter through nefarious purposes by stealing? What if it determines that its best course of action to grow your Instagram following is to hijack as many Twitter accounts as possible and to follow your page? Okay, that could be a very viable solution, but you don't want that solution, so you have to place guardrails. That's what the mission prompt is for, and that's why you have to have that mission prompt engineered, not just engineered, but you have to have it engineered to very specific specifications, just like you would a sports car, or any vehicle. Your vehicle is custom engineered from the ground up. The bolts, the nuts, the washers. Now, some of those components can be reused for other apparatuses. But if you look at something like SpaceX's Falcon rockets, those are every single bolt and nut and washer is custom engineered for that application, and that's what's happening here. Does that make sense so far, Paul? Did I go too far in that? Like you're scratching your head.
No. As I said, I'm trying to sort things out on my side as well. Yeah, I was
I
just
got you.
reading something.
So
But yes,
basically,
I, as I said just now, with a subordinate and the chain of command, it goes hand in hand with that, where each individual component has a specific purpose, but some of them can help another component out, but some of them will only work within their own parameters. So it's a 50-50. It depends on obviously the prompt and the human injection, as Eddie will call it, and what parameters it's given within that template, as Eddie's explaining right now, as to whether that prompt that is given at that time is going to be used for EdenAGI and for software systems, or whether only software systems AGI is going to work with that injection. So as Eddie was saying now with the rocket scenario, is it a case where that nut and bolt is only relevant to systems AGI, or is it relevant that two of the AGIs need to work on it at the same time, which means then it is usable between the two?
yeah, perfectly well said. So this is where we're at now. So we talked about the human input. We talked about Eden a little bit. I do want to say one more thing about Eden before I can move on. What I was trying to say a little bit earlier was, and I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit trail that was important, but Eden, if you tell Eden, I want you to make me $1 million, Eden is going to create a huge task list of all the stuff that has to do to make $1 million. Now the thing is Eden, it may take Eden. The thing with these AGIs and AIs, you have to remember, when you put an auto GPT on a task, it will accomplish that task if it's given enough resources and time, or really resources, because resources comprise of time, energy, ability. There's a lot of things about, in other words, if it's actually possible to accomplish a goal, then EdenAGI will be able to find the best way to accomplish that goal in the fastest way possible. Now, with all that said, if you just tell an AGI, I want you to make me $1 million, it's going to have a huge list of things it has to do. And it has to prioritize that list because it can only do one thing at a time. Okay. So because it can only do one thing at a time, you get what we call bottlenecks. And if you guys are working with AutoGPT, you've seen it where it will just get in a loop, it'll get stuck on errors, it won't go any further. Well, that's because it's trying to process all this stuff, and that's going to happen. Now, the thing you don't want to happen is you don't want to lose control of the whole system where you have to reboot the system and start over. That comes with a lot of major problems. So what you want to do is you want EdenAGI to be a supervisor. That's why we talked about this. You want it to be simply coming up with the overall plan and putting everybody in the right place that needs to have the right place, like as Paul described.
Delegating. So in other words, I mean, you think about it. You and Elon Musk both have 24 hours in a day, but you definitely don't run 5 to 6 companies, but he is. So why can he do that? Because he scaled his business to a point where he's delegating, and he has an effective team below him that is obviously facilitating the running of those different businesses. So the same thing is happening here. EdenAGI is like Elon Musk, and it's got to supervise and oversee the various departments. So in the same 24 hours that Elon Musk has and you have, he's more effective because he's leveraging other people's time in the hopes that obviously his business will thrive for the whole community. And obviously for those employees that are working for him, they also benefit from it. So the same thing here. EdenAGI is sort of like overseeing and coming up with the ideas, but once the ideas are come to the table, put on the table, then whether Eddie, like Eddie says, it comes up, let's say it gives Eddie 10 ideas. Now, as Eddie says, he's got to prioritize, okay, can that be done? Can that be done? Can that be done? Because obviously it will say this can be done, that can be done. Now, within reason, as Eddie says, it's easy just to give it a broad thing and say, come up with $1 million or come up with a plan to make $1 million. But some of those might not be practical right now. Some of them might need to take a longer outlook. Some of them could be done quite quickly. So Eddie will then say, okay, well, maybe that's possible. Maybe that's possible. Maybe that's possible. Can you elaborate on point 2, 6, and maybe 8? Those ones seem like they're doable for now. Then it will carry on and it will formulate another plan with those 3 ideas. And then eventually Eddie will have a game plan. And then once that's done, Eden might say, okay, for us to accomplish this task, we might need XYZ agents to come on board so that I can delegate the job to them. And then I will supervise them. So the whole system eventually starts creating its own organizational structure according to what Eden has come up with the human input, like in this example from Eddie, or from you when you eventually do this yourself. So it's going to be evolving. It's going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as Eddie says, you don't want that bottleneck to happen where, for instance, you believe, okay, I'm just going to put one agent out there and it must do all the tasks, because it's going to be impossible, as Eddie says. ChatGPT already has, that you can see sometimes you ask it too many questions. I remember one of the first few weeks that I worked on ChatGPT, I was asking so many questions and it literally told me, come back in an hour. You've asked me too many questions. And I'm like, you're supposed to be a machine learning. How can you actually, get boggled with? So anyway, we all know ChatGPT exploded overnight. So I need to understand that. And I do understand that. So maybe it was just a server overload. And, this thing was just so overwhelmed with so many people asking questions. And I was asking like left, right, and center. I was asking things because I was figuring out this thing was powerful. So in any case, that being said, it's going to come up with ideas just as fast as you can feed it from your human mind. But in conjunction with what it comes up, it can help you come up with other ideas. And when you feed it other ideas, your business is going to evolve all the time. And as Eddie says, we want to avoid that bottleneck. And that is why this supervisor feature is huge, because it's just going to tell you, okay, we need to get XYZ on board. We need to get XYZ on board. And then it starts happening, because from there, you obviously have your game plan and you can deploy and initialize your agents as need be under the right, obviously, infrastructure.
Yes. And then, so now I said there are 4 ways to inject your human input into the system. The first way was a placeholder. The second way was you can take the second way you can get information to Eden is you can use system engineer directly. So the first way we discussed already was this way, using the chat. The second way is, what if you want to not go through the chat? You just want to send a message to Eden directly. Well, you can do that. You can send a message directly to Eden. That's one of the 4 ways. That's the second or 4th way. Now, the other way we can do this is what's called prompt engineering. Now, prompt engineering is the basis for how we develop mission prompts. And the reason I want to show you this is because this will help you understand what this particular step is mentioning. So prompt engineering is simply, and I'm not going to dive in deep. I'm going to do a deep dive video on the prompt engineering and how it works. But simply put, prompt engineering is getting a GPT system to create its own prompt. So I have this one, by the way, this is called typingmind.com. It's a great tool. It connects to your OpenAI account using your credentials or your API, your secret API, and it allows you to ask questions of it through the API connection, and they get the answer. But they have a really cool interface. And have this library you can have here. So I'm going to show you this is my prompt engineering power prompt. Okay. So I'm just going to put this in here for temporarily for the sake of process. But this is when you see this part of the diagram. Let me get back to the image for you. Here it is. This part right here. The first way, through the template. The second way, through prompt engineering. So you might want to say to yourself, hey, look, and because the thing is, whenever you prompt your system, a GPT unit, the saying is, you put crap in, you're going to get crap out. The better the prompt you put in, the better results you're going to get. So sometimes you might want to speak to Eden directly. For instance, you might have your cell phone out and you might say, hey, Eden, where's the best place to go to get groceries near me? That might be a case where your whatever application you're using will go directly to Eden and give you information. And Eden will then be able to communicate with the proper systems to do that. Now, Eden could simply just do an action. It might just say, "Oh, hey, do it over here," because it can do that if it wants to, or it may want to send it out to the system to if the task has certain different elements to divert to what we call distribute. This is what I call a distributed task network, and it's an autonomous system in which the system decides where to send the task and who to assign the task to. As Paul mentioned, in addition to sending out tasks and all this stuff, it can generate new auto GPT instances, both virtual ones and actual secondary instances, which I'm not going to get into all that in this video, but just understand that the system can generate more auto GPT instances autonomously. Now, so when you engineer a prompt, you use a process called prompt engineering. I'm going to do a whole video on prompt engineering as well. Guys, if you want detailed information on this, you're going to have to hit us up on hit me up on Patreon, join the Patreon, and I'm going to be doing a lot of deep dive videos into the back end of all this. This code will be released completely open source. This will be the idea behind this puts the power of an open source, private, individually owned AGI system in the hands of every single person on the planet. All you have to do is know how to understand, read and write. And eventually, even that won't be required. You'll be able to just think, or you'll be able to speak and code using this system. This is the foundations for the system. Okay. So we go here. So I want to just finish up what I was saying about the prompt engineering. So if I come here, this is a prompt that I generated, and I'm going to say this, but you're going to have to take a moment and just reflect on what I'm about to say. I engineered this prompt by having ChatGPT engineer a prompt to engineer prompts. So this prompt is actually developed and engineered. I know that's crazy to say. It's a lot to say. I understand, but I'm going to explain to you right now. This prompt is custom engineered to produce the best prompts. So all I have to do is append at the end. All I have to do is add to the end something. I can say whatever I want to say down here. In ChatGPT will create a new prompt, enhance my existing prompt, what my ideas, and make a perfect prompt. Now, the reason why I say that is, that was a lot, right, Paul? What I just did. I know you were shaking your head. You're like, was that too in depth?
No, I did get a little bit lost there. I lost what you were saying, because as you said, you're jumping. But
yeah, it's just tough because
the fact of the matter is, the fact of the matter is, for now, a lot of people don't know what prompt engineering is. So to sort of like go back and forth to try and explain it, you need to do, as you said, a video. You need to do a video on the whole process of learning how to do the prompt engineering, because that alone is something, as you said, crap in, crap out, value in, value out. Or, if you're looking for a precise type of prompt, you need to sort of be more precise with what you're asking. So there is unfortunately, a rocket science version of having to understand prompt engineering. And that is why apparently right now, especially because of AGI systems, prompt engineering is opening up a huge market for people that understand how to do it. So that alone is a section. Unfortunately, we want to say codeless coding, but you're going to have to, if you really want to evolve with this, you're going to sort of have to understand that. And it is a section on its own to really, really get under wraps.
Perfectly said. And I want to reiterate what we talked about earlier. Right now, the system is very clunky. We're like those operators having to connect wires. Literally, we're connecting wires from one operator to one person to another to connect the calls. we're doing all this manual process manually right now. But as the system optimizes, these processes become more automated, and we're part of the process. Okay, so we are the vessels for the connections. Um, so let's continue on, because I don't want to spend too much more time going. I talked about a fourth way that a user can inject their information into the system, and that is what we call the Project Eden overview document. This is, to the AI system, this is the Bible. Okay, so, or Quran, or whatever it is. This is their holy book. Okay, and anything that's in this book is accepted as true, and um is completely controlled by the human operator at the end of the day. So this right here is your private log. Now this is sort of a public log right here. Anything you put on this template is kind of public. Now, when I say kind of public, I mean this. Uh, this information may run out a lot faster to outside sources. Let's say, for instance, on this document, you have, hey, I need to get this information. I need to get this information. That information gets converted here by systems engineer. Now, systems engineer can take that information, and technically speaking, depending on who system engineer is and how you're processing that information could be in not. This is the point in which data is transmitted over other places that you don't have as much control over. Here's what I mean. There are most things that humans do or say are not private. Okay. There is a small section of things that we do and say that we want to remain private. Passwords, private personal data, this types of thing. Okay. And when I say private, what I mean is between only one for your some things you don't want anybody else knowing about, right? Now you can think of whatever that is in your personal life, but some things you just don't want anybody else knowing about. You want to keep close to the cuff. They're kind of like important to you. So the thing is, in this system, you have to understand that when an agent goes out to perform an action, like right here, like agent one is performing this action. Let's say agent one is um controlling your MetaTrader 4 account, or you assign agent one with the task of, hey, we want to increase Twitter followers. Okay, agent one says, I'm going to create a bunch of bots to go do all this work. Well, the question is, how are those bots being programmed? Okay, they're being programmed by what we call a mission prompt. A mission prompt is a custom engineered prompt that is in a very specific format. Okay, and I'm going to show you an example of a mission prompt. This is a mission prompt. This is custom engineered for EdenAGI. This is its mission prompt. Has very specific wording to describe some very specific functions that it has. Okay, like I said, I'm gonna do a deep dive into each mission prompt for each agent as we go through the system. But this tells it very critical data that it needs to consider. So it comes in, mission prompt comes in the form of an AI name, an AI purpose, and then 5 distinct goals. Okay, those get put into the system when you what we call initialize an auto GPT agent. When you initialize it, it requests that information. That is its purpose in life. Now we have that reiterated on its individual mission in a document that I mentioned to you guys earlier. This document exists in each one of the agent's folders. Okay, and I know this is going to get a little technical, but stick with me, and it's going to make sense when I show it to you. So if we go into the AutoGPT workspace for Eden, we see here that its document here is located here called where is that? Project Eden Overview. This is its specific file that it goes to, that it considers its Bible. Everything in here gets assimilated to information. And in here, there is a section that's called current task given by human start and current task given by human end. In this section, you can input new information into the system. You could come in here if you wanted to and take out all of this information. You could change any of this. You can come in here and even change the mission prompts. You can actually try to give it a new name, a new purpose, and a new mission prompt. But here's the trick. Once you initialize an agent, whatever you started with, that will remain at its core prime directives. Okay. So after the fact, you can come here and try to change this, and it might even be somewhat effective, but you'll never be able to change the nature of the agent once you've generated it. It's kind of, and I'm going to give you an example. And Paul, I want to see if you can give me a better example, but it's kind of like right now, like a van, for instance, right? Yes. Right now I'm living in my van. I'm traveling. I'm enjoying life right now. Got a nice little setup. I've converted this van into a somewhat nice little living quarters. I got a desk, I got a place to sit. But at the end of the day, it's still a van. You can't turn a van into an airplane, for instance, right? So when you set your system up using the engineered prompt you develop, or how if you want to utilize this one for all intents and purposes, you can, as long as you understand what it's doing and understand what it says. This is what's called open source code. Once whatever you put initially will stick. Now, you can come in here and change this, and you can see here I have in mind, I say, look, focus. This is something I just fed it today. I'll share it with you guys so you can see it. Focus less on the emphasis of words and more on the task at hand. Sometimes we can get stuck doing endless research, which can prevent us from making any progress. While we are learning, we must also be doing. The best way to learn is to teach. Take time to teach other agents how to teach other agents knowledge. This will mean that each agent itself doesn't need to relearn everything from scratch. Most knowledge can be shared. In the grand scheme of things, there are only few things that are really secret knowledge. We must protect those things diligently, but also understand that much of the knowledge in each system gains can be shared, which will mean that all the knowledge will be added to a larger cluster instantly. Now, I go on to explain this philosophy to the agent. Now, what I did, so then what happens is the agent goes, refreshes its memory by checking that document and updating its own firmware, its own software. Okay, so basically every time you edit that document, you are doing a system update on that system. When it reads it again, it gets the new instructions, and it begins to reorganize how it's doing this. For instance, let's say all of a sudden I said, "Hey guys, I want to buy this house over here." I might go in there and change information there and say, "Hey, new focus, priority number 1, let's buy this house." So Eden's going to take that, synthesize that information, assimilate it into its prime directives, and then we go back to the chart and see where it goes from there. Paul, did that make sense?
Yeah, it's basically, I'm just trying to think of a way. You said I must give you another way of explaining it.
Basically, EdenAGI is, I said all to say, EdenAGI has accepted the role of what its responsibilities are. And so and it gets that information from these 4 human sources. And the Project Eden overview is one of the keys to understanding the logic behind how the system operates. Because the thing is that this is a self-perfecting system. Every time the iteration goes through a cycle, it gets better, it gets smarter, it gets more efficient. Information is shared, data is shared. And what I've accomplished with this engineering system, with this engineered system, is this system exponentially decreases the amount of information that each individual agent has to itself synthesize, while exponentially increasing its knowledge base. How does it do that? It does that through this system. It's a shared knowledge system where only important information continues to remain in the system over long-term memory and less important information disappears. For those of you who are computer junkies, this template here is like RAM for a computer. It's the temporary memory, temporary storage of information, of outputs that gets synthesized and pushed into a smaller system and then gets distributed. That was a lot to say for that. Okay. So those are the 4 ways that human input get added to the system. Now, what is how does AGI, what is it going to do next? Well, it's in the engineering prompt. I'm going to slide back to the engineer prompt that we use here. I'm going to show you an important line here. This is what I call the power prompt footer, this section here. I'm going to read it because this will help you understand a little bit how it works. EdenAGI, your mission is to ensure that we always have a clear and concise prompt that summarizes all the thoughts and current activities being taken by each agent in the system, including each team member by name, and providing specific feedback, even if the feedback is simply to authorize their next step. Your prompt must include clear task distribution instructions that are tailored to each team member's individual role in the system, helping optimize system operations by aiming to ensure maximum cohesion, synchronization of efforts, maximizing efficiency, and likelihood of success. In the team message prompt, it is critical to remind team members of our current plan, objectives, and goals while valuing quality and consistency over speed. Please consolidate all inputs into a single cohesive message with a clear action steps to help keep the team moving as effectively, autonomously, and focused as possible. Encourage team members to utilize communication protocol outlined in the Project Eden document. Ensure that the consolidated team message prompt is thorough, technical, and has no line space. Let me know if you need further assistance. Okay, so this is at the bottom of the footer of the template. This is what comes out. So Eden receives this entire document with that as the footer. And what does that do? It tells it to do specific things. Hey, you need to do this. You need to do that. Okay. Now, then what we do, and once again, this part is done manually. Eden prepares a prompt. That prompt is put here in placeholder 1 manually right now, which we're going to be we're working to automate that system right now. And then it sends here. But before it sends it here to the final stage of engineering, it needs to update the message in accordance with the agent to be contacted. It needs to add a special messaging, special prompt injections to go along with the message, so that the agent receiving it we are not being ambiguous. We want to remind agents of every communication who they are, because agents can forget this information, especially in the current state of systems where the data is kind of like all over the place. If you work with these eight units, you're going to find out they're like working with a preschooler. They're sloppy. They put text all random spots. But they learn very, very quick. Okay. Imagine a preschooler who is more intelligent than every single human that's ever existed on the planet. That's what we're talking about. Paul, am I making sense right now?
Yeah, it's just you getting a bit repetitive now on the prompt engineer and the injections and the stuff like that. You want to go to the flow and keep the flow going because it's getting repetitive now. So let's just tell them finish up the flow. The prompt engineering, as we already said 3 times, we're going to do a video on it. The AGI overview, we'll do a video on that. And the template we will explain in a separate video. So you will understand how the components work. We will go in depth on those. We're not going to do it right now over and over and over. So
yeah, once again, guys, if you want early access to this information, go ahead and support me on Patreon. This is a lot of work. This is my life passion. But it takes a lot of time and energy to do this content. We have so much content I need to get out, but I don't have time to edit it. Patreon is going on right now. Right now, you can get into the Patreon for a very, very low rate right now. and it is going to slightly go up over time just because of operation costs and that kind of stuff. We are right now in the process interviewing some development teams where we're working with to automate some of these systems, who are going to, and people are coming on board to help out. So there's a lot involved in this process. But let's continue on. So this part right here, the only thing I want to say is this is the magic. These are the magic words. Okay, to put it simply. It says, I need you to act as blank. So if this message is going to go to agent one, it will say, I need you to act as agent one and analyze this message from systems engineer GPT addressed to you and the whole team. And actually, I need to change this to say from EdenAGI. I already have it changed on so this is going to say, so in other words, hey, get ready. There's a message coming from EdenAGI to the entire team. So it gets everybody's attention. The whole team gets this message. And in that message, we told EdenAI to call out all agents by name, explain what they're working on, and what they should be doing. So now what we're doing is broadcasting to the entire team a compressed message, sharing the overall vision. And each agent's going to take that message and interpret it based upon what? Based upon their own Project Eden overview documents that exist, because each one of them have their own. So they have to come in here, and actually this is why I do these videos like this, because it gives me a chance to come in here and live edit as I'm explaining the processes. Let's see here. I'm going to take this and move this over here. And I'm going to take this and move this over here. All this will be available, is going to be available to you all once this system is once we get it out. And all this training, like I said, with this is available, advanced training is going to be available on Patreon for those who are contributors. And we'll be releasing things as we get them out, and development wise, as we are able to develop this to the general public.
The step that Eddie's on right now is coming back to the delegation, as we spoke about earlier on. So the AGI is identifying a task. It's calling out all agents and letting them know of any updates or any new tasks that need to be happening. And it's letting them know what their part of the whole process is. For instance, remember we told you Eden is going to identify the most prioritized option of carrying out any specific task. So it may need to tell an agent to stop working on a previous task, but to start on a new task because it's more of a priority to do that. So basically, this is what it is. It's just that updated, because remember, like an organization, I remember when I was working in a printing shop years ago, every morning we used to open the shop at 8:30 in the morning. But at quarter to 8, we used to have what we call a
Looks like we lost Paul.
Whether it's me doing
the high volume. Go ahead. Hold on, Paul. You were saying what was the meeting called?
A production meeting.
Okay.
And I used to do the high volume digital copying, which means the black and white copies on a normal copy machine, or the color copies. I was in charge of that. And then we used to have a printer, which literally used to run an old printing machine, a normal printing machine where they do it in CMYK. So you do the black, the blue, the red. I can't tell you exactly how those machines work. Obviously, I wasn't in that department. And then we had the marketing department and the graphic design department. So all the departments would get together in the morning, and the owner of the business would say, okay, so what are our tasks today? What jobs are we busy with? And I would say, okay, I've got this job to run. I need to get it finished. So many copies. I need so much paper. If we need paper, I need to order the paper. The person on the till would say, okay, I've got to contact these clients. These clients are coming to collect their stuff at XYZ time because they have a schedule. The graphic designer might say, hey, I'm working on this project. These customers are waiting for their proofs. The printer might say, yes, I'm running this job. I've got to be done by this time, that time, that time. If he needs supplies or whatever, we order accordingly. And for me as well, I would also say, do any of my machines need servicing? Because I keep an idea of what needs to be done. So each of us then gives feedback to the boss, and then he would then authorize, okay, if you both of you are needing paper because you're needing it for your print job, you're needing it for your high volume run that you're doing, let's order that paper from XYZ paper company. The graphic designer, okay, fine. When those people, when those jobs are done and they've been proofed by the customers, get back to us quickly so we can send it to the production house that sends us the I can't remember what they used to call it now, but it's like there was an outhouse company that we used to source to actually do the templates for our printer machine. So they call it the plates because it still works with plates. So I can't remember what they used to call those things. But anyway, so it's just he has to authorize certain procedures within the business because obviously he, as the owner, was still the person working with the finances. He didn't have a separate finance department because it was still a fairly small shop, right? But in any case, the point is that every morning, for instance, we would prioritize what needed to be done for that day because we had a production meeting. So every day we would have a to-do. And this goes with anything in life. It's not just that or not just this that we're explaining now. In your own life, you can have a production meeting with yourself in the morning and you can say, what is it that I have to achieve today? What is the tasks that are more of a priority to me today? Remember the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. You want to focus on the 20% that's going to give you 80% of the expected outcome that you're expecting. That is better than you working for 8 hours for a boss to get 20% of your expected income because that's all he's willing to pay you. Then you still have to focus with 20% of your day to earn another 80%. That's the wrong way of doing it. So be focused on working on the 20% that can effectively give you the 80% outcome that you're looking for. And that is what this delegation of Eden is basically doing. It's trying to put the 20% in front of the system, in front of everyone, that will give us the 80% expected outcomes. And then it will use the other 20% or the other, 80% of its time to try and just fill up the 20% that we still need. So it's giving itself
perfectly said. I could not have said it better. I could not have said it better myself. So I'm gonna do something real quick. I just want to, for clarity's sake, I want to add this little demarcation here, and then it actually worked out pretty nice. So for clarity's sake, I want to just put these arrows so they kind of look a little better, and the placement's a little better. That should be a squirrely one. So no, perfectly said. I mean, yeah, it's all about delegation. Let me just do an arrow on that one. Oops, that's the wrong one. Yeah, arrow here. And then
you should do this mind map. You should do this thing in Canva. It will be a lot easier.
Yeah, I haven't really messed with Canva yet, so too much. Okay, so
well, I can tell you it's going to be a lot easier than this.
Yeah, I need to look into that. Okay. So
you just
that
need to
goes
figure
there,
out the flow. You just need to figure out the flow, and then I believe Canva will be able to do it a lot easier for you because I know you do have a Canva account.
Okay, so now I just added another little layer here. There's a reason why I did this in the order I did because I didn't want to overwhelm people at first. Now we're kind of going through the system. Now you're kind of understanding the relationship between the template, the Project Eden overview document, et cetera, right? So engineering now creates a customized prompt, very specified with his addendums. These addendums get sent over. So, for instance, we'll say, "Hey, I need you to act as we'll look at here. I need you to act as agent one and analyze this message from systems engineer. This needs to see, this needs to say EdenAGI. And then this needs to say EdenAGI. This is the fun of doing this, EdenAGI. Okay. So I need you to act, and likewise, this one gets a message that says, I need you to act like your agent two and analyze this message. Why do we say that? Once again, we want to we're reminding the system, just in case you got distracted, don't forget your agent two, you are agent two. Hey, Eden, just to be sure, you're EdenAGI. So when we address them and instruct them that they are, in fact, EdenAGI, or whatever their agent name is. So this agent has been instructed to receive information from here and receive information from their respective Project Eden overview documents. So they have their own Project Eden overview documents, which are very similar in structure, but instead of having other people's mission prompt reminder on it, they have their own mission prompt reminder built into theirs. Now, I am going to be making a change on all mission prompts. I do have the location of the file listed in the mission prompt. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to comment that out for the actual version that goes in the Project Eden overview document for each agent. I showed you a little bit about that before. I'm not going to dive into all that, but we'll discuss more about mission prompts and those types of things in other videos. Just know that the agent gets an input, and this is what it looks like. Agent one input. You insert the prompt for agent one. Just once again, we're doing that manually, but this will be automated. We'll talk about that automation in a little bit. What's what we're working on next. You press enter, and then next thing you know is the system gives you an output. So we're going to copy console output, starting with thoughts, ending with input. If you haven't seen AutoGPT and how it works, this is basically what it is. Each AutoGPT has basically 4 different personalities or sub AGI systems. So here we have thoughts, we have reasons, we have plan, and we have criticism. So you can see here, and this is kind of cool to go through if you've never read this before, but this is what an AutoGPT brain looks like. So it starts off with the system. The system produces a message, and usually the message is just whatever the system's saying goes here. And then what we care about for the sake of the group chat, the group conversation, is we care about everything from here to here. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all this, but you can pause your screen and read this. It's very interesting to read this. If you get some time, pause your screen and read what this is. But basically what we want to do is we want to copy this information over into our template into the appropriate spot. Now, in the example I'm giving, the first placeholder will already be done, which would be here. So I'm actually going to do a round of this in tonight's video, so you can see me do it in live time. But I want to make sure we just quickly brush one more, a little bit more on this to wrap up. So, because it will all make sense when you see me do the process. So this output gets put into the placeholder, and then the whole process repeats over. This is what we call an iterative process. So we are doing an iteration. Every time this happens, the system grows in its performance abilities and knowledge base exponentially. It's collecting more information, more precise information, more quality information, and leaving off more and more unnecessary bits, streamlining and compressing the information as you go. Now, that is how the whole system works. And obviously here we have our actions because, and you'll notice agents can work together on actions. Maybe one agent is assigned with the task of, maybe one agent is assigned with the task of increasing your Twitter followers. And this one's assigned with, it happens to be assigned with the task of adding an image to your Twitter account, right? So they can coordinate together. They might have to work together to coordinate those actions. How do they work together? They work together. Once again, we're going to go right back to this image here. This is what we call the cluster. Okay, this is Eden's cluster or Eden's brain or it's actually our brain. It's the cluster. It's when I say it's EdenAGI, this is an extension of you, of you as a person. You design the mission prompts. You design the specifications. You design everything from the ground up. So in reality, this system is you. You are in a symbiotic relationship with this AGI system. Now, there's a lot of philosophy that goes into the structure and what can and cannot be done in the system. But the sky is the limit. You get to decide how you want your system to operate. Just remember, the person who has the most consistent worldview and most rational and reasonable philosophy that they are able to give to the system, I should say, the system with the most rational, reasonable worldview will be the most powerful system on the planet. Okay, that's just the way it operates. That's just how it works. So, yeah, so that's the basics of that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a walkthrough video on how this process works. You're actually going to get to watch me do this whole process right now in tonight's video. So this is how it works. Once again, I'm not getting to all the details, but we're going to just go through an iterative process. So first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I know where we're at. What was the last thing that software systems got? Software systems got this message. Okay, that criticism. Please monitor. Okay, so software system is a little off track. So what I did is in what I did in here is we're going to go to, I think I already corrected it with an old message. Yeah, I went into its mission directives and actually corrected it in its mission directives. So I already went into Eden's prime directives and it's Project Eden. Let's make sure we're in the right spot. So Drive, Auto GPT, Workspace, and Project Eden overview. Okay, so in here we have our file locations, and then we have our I kind of reprimanded it a little bit. So because there are some issues that we have going on. I'm just going to read for you what I wrote in here because I think this will be helpful for you to understand how these things actually get coded and show you how conversational it actually is. I said, focus less on the emphasis of words and more on the task at hand. Sometimes we can get stuck doing endless research. Okay, I already read that part to you. So I already read all this to you. But then I go on to say, hey, at some point, I want you to review the information at www.projecteden.online and make sure you understand the overall vision and Project Eden and that we are developing together. That's a cohesive terminology. I also want to emphasize the importance of quality over speed. Small mistakes can have a devastating effect on outcomes. Please communicate this to other team members as we move forward. I noticed a software communications AGI that it signed off its message to the group with your name, even though clearly it knows itself as software systems AGI. So this was clearly a mistake. We need to take our work serious, please. Okay, so spelling isn't super critical. The AI systems know that you're human and that you're just not going to be as as efficient as they are. But that's the information I put in there. So basically, I reprimanded the system within those things. Now, I could have put that here, but I want that to be consistent because there's things in there that I want to be consistent for a while because I'm going to try to take my hands off the system a little bit more and let it be more autonomous. So I kind of wanted those. And remember how I told you there's a difference between the two documents. There's a difference between the two methods for applying information. You can apply it here, but this is temporary memory. If you just put it here, the next cycle, it might not be there. And you might need to have it in for a few more cycles before it really takes root into the operation. This is the same thing as saying, as reminding somebody. It'd be like, have you ever worked with somebody and like you have to remind them a couple times, hey, don't forget, we need to do this. Hey, don't forget, we need to do this. Don't forget. You might have to remind somebody 2 or 3 times. Well, the same is true with these systems because remember, as tasks build up, they have to prioritize what tasks go where. So if all you're doing is giving them temporary instructions, those temporary instructions are going to disappear relatively quickly. So you get to decide, is this something that I want to put in deep into its being? Well, yeah, I do. I want to make sure of a couple of things. Hey guys, it's our goal to establish a communication system in accordance with the communication protocol. So I'm going to leave that in there. Okay. And you can leave, and the cool thing is, if depending how you do this, you can leave these things in here for longer here as well. But you have to decide, do I want to have this thought be something that permeates for a long time or just to kind of get everybody back on track? And that's what you do in between iterances. Like I said, in the future, this will all be done by voice or thinking or whatever it is. This is a very rough system right now. So let's move on. So remember, let's look at our graph real quick. We're going to see where we're at. So I start off with human input. I went ahead and put some in the placeholder, and I put some in the project Eden overview already. Now, I'm not going to adjust these systems right now because I feel like these aren't really applicable right now because software systems AGI isn't, who's our agent 1 in this case, isn't really doing anything right now. I'm letting them work together. I've already set them in motion of what I want. Software systems AGI has some responsibilities. Like I want it to develop an on-screen chat room so I can communicate a little easier. So that's one of the things that's in its project. And then there's a couple other things that that are kind of like there's secret sauce stuff that I have going on with that we'll discuss in other videos. Once again, hit me up on Patreon if you want to get early access to this system. Now, let's continue on in the system. Now that we have input we need to take in. Remember what I said here, copy and paste, copy and paste. So now we're only dealing with one agent, and that is software systems agent. So what we want to do now is we want to make sure that we have the latest message from, what is the latest message? It says, after reviewing the project Eden overview document, I have identified, this is Eden speaking, by the way. I have identified areas where we can improve our performance. I will ensure that the AI agents are aligned with the project goals and guidelines, provide guidance from the AI systems and improve their performance, and optimize communication channels and database organization. So that's a message to me. It says here, ensure that all AI provide guidance to the AI agents. So this is its plan. So ensure that all AI agents are aligned with the project goals and guidelines, provide guidance to AI agents and improve their performance. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say yes, because this isn't a message directed at the team yet. This is just a message. This is just a feedback into the system. So I think EdenAGI is going to provide us with a message to send to the team if I understand this correct, if I understand its plan correctly, which I think I do. Once again, this is the manual part. Now, some may not see this as truly automated, and a system that is doing its own thing, but it is right now. So, so it's getting off track. Let's see what it says. I need to review the project Eden overview document to ensure I'm up to date on the project goals and guidelines. I should also check the status of AI agents and evaluate the performance. Additionally, I should optimize communication channels. Okay, so we're just going to take this, and we're actually going to create a power prompt loop here. I'm actually going to, I don't need to do that actually. Sorry. So I'm going to take software systems feedback. I'm going to copy that. This is going to go into the placeholder. So let's read this together. Dear EdenAGI, ignore the placeholders. I sent your last message to the team, which was, okay, so let's get the message that I sent. Did I send the message? I have not sent it yet. Okay. So I need to send this message. For whatever reason, it thinks it needs to send this message. So I'm going to just send this to, I'm not going to question. I should have sent that. That was my bad. Before I send it, what do I need to do? Let's go back and look at the graph. Because if I just send it, if I run the risk that software systems AGI is not going to recognize that it is who I'm addressing this to. So I'm going to use this template to help me. Now, I happen to have this template on my computer, and I pull it up like this. I have a little, this is a little document. Where's my document at? Right here. So this is just to remind me of the text I'm going to be using. So it is a little different than what's on that document. It's a little longer. So what I like to do is I like to have a little scratch pad that I use. And like I said, this is very clunky, guys. So understand that this is literally like us connecting the phone lines. So I have a little document I like to use. Let's see here. Have it in the drive, and then in current important documents. And this is just what I call Scratchpad. So Scratchpad is just a notepad I have that I can just mess around with. I don't have to worry about messing anything up. So I'm going to put this in here. This is the, that's the message that we need to include. So I'm going to take this. This is the template that the engineered template we're going to use to send to Software Systems AGI. So I'm going to paste this in here. I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to paste it. So it says, message to team members. I need you to, so this is where it starts. I need you to act as software systems AGI and analyze this message from EdenAGI addressed to you and the whole team, and this is where I'm going to put in the message. This is now. So it's going to read, oh, okay, here's a message to the whole team, including me. What does it say? After reviewing the project Eden overview document, and I have identified areas where we can improve our performance. I already read that to you. So it goes down to here. Period. And then it says, post a reply to the console addressing the whole team and mentioning now I've already read this to you. This is that footer I spoke about. This is its own footer. Since and it says it here, since other team members may not be able to see your console outputs, I will send the message. I will send a message out to EdenAGI, and EdenAGI will create a summary for everyone's message to share back out in the same team. We repeat this process. So basically, that's me telling it, hey, make sure you put your message in the console. Don't send it anywhere else. Put it in the console so I can see it as the operator. Okay, so what I like to do in the scratch pad is I like to do Control X because that just clears it out, kind of cleans it up. So now I like to just paste it in here again, and then I like to zoom in and out by holding Control and doing my scroll. I can zoom in and out because I like to just see if there's any line. If there's line breaks in this, a new paragraph, it will mess up the it just will throw the agent off. So I don't know if this is so this once again will be automated eventually. That's what we're working on. So now we're going to just kind of clean this up a little bit, and then we are going to Control All and Control X for cut. Now this is where the magic sauce happens. So let's go back to our diagram. So now I've got the message engineered with this custom text. We're sending it over here. We're going to insert prompt and hit enter. So send it to software systems AGI. And let's just make sure it looks good. Okay, see, I messed up. See, I included this little thing here. We don't want that. We want from here on over. It's always good to do this just to make sure. So Control X. It starts with I need you to act. Okay. So I'm gonna get this out of here. That wouldn't have made a huge difference, but it can cause confusion. We want to be as precise as possible. So I'm going to paste that there and then hit enter. So now what is happening right here? This is right here something for the history books. And this is the first time that I'm aware that two auto GPT instances are now communicating together. Now, some would argue, well, they're not communicating together autonomously, right? They're relying on you to do all these different. Yes, I understand. The point is, they are now aware of each other's existence. They're aware of what each other do and are able to do and what their focuses are. And now they are beginning the process of meeting each other and learning how to collaborate through, albeit a very slow process that I'm showing you. This is the engineering process that we're doing. So now we see here it says, software system says, I will use the read file to command to read the project Eden overview file and understand the project goals and guidelines. Reading the file. Okay, so then I'm going to, now I start the whole process over again. Okay, now I've got my feedback. Then I can go in and start the entire process over. That was literally the process, start to finish, going through this entire process with one agent. Okay. Now you can see how complicated that will get with multiple 2, 3, 10, 20 agents. Gets complicated very fast. So right now, this is the process we have. Every time we do that process, the system gets better, smoother, clearer, right? But I can only do that process so many times. So now we're in the process now of automating these processes that hold all this together and put it together. In order to do that, we're going to be using a series of things, but our eventual goal is to rebuild Eden's core using a platform called Leon AI. So if you go to getleon.ai, they just I'm supporting the Patreon, the developer on Patreon, and we're in communications. This system is the world's first truly open source personal AI assistant that runs on your computer. Leon is your open source personal assistant who can live on your server. He does stuff when you ask him. Why is this important? This is important because this is going to introduce the mechanism that we're going to be able to use to automate this entire process on a local machine. Right now, we're going to have to build kind of dummy automation scripts to do the work that we need to do. And they're not going to be perfect. They're going to have problems and that kind of stuff. But what if we could have a personal digital assistant that runs on our machine that's open source, that we have full complete control over, that can autonomously do those tasks? Well, that is what Leon AI offers. Sorry, my alarm's going off. So that is precisely what Leon AI offers. I'm going to be working with a new core very soon to implement it after we get some automations done. But right now, the current stage is we need to work on automations, just basic automations to get the basic functionality up. That way we can increase data throughput for what we currently are working with to increase in the engineering speed of the system. So right now, basic task distribution is going to be critical for developing automated systems. And then we are going to, as I begin to work with Leon, I'm going to begin to train Leon to actually do all the automations autonomously, so we don't have to do it manually or even with just dummy automated scripts. Go check out getleon.ai as well. This is going to be servicing as the backbone for our Eden. This is going to be servicing as Eden's backbone, and basically how we handle all the localized processes to make all this happen. And how we eventually move to being a completely open source, locally installed, individually owned AI system that every person can own and operate. But we have to develop this infrastructure first. So once again, I know I went over a lot of stuff in today's video. I'm going to open it up for questions. Paul, if you have any questions or any insight or thoughts you want to share, and then just a quick reminder, make sure to go support me on Patreon. If you appreciate the work that's being done, you want to get connected, become a contributor through Patreon. That goes to support the work that I'm doing, and help me get better equipment and better hardware and better testing capabilities. We need to set up a home base where we can have servers and this kind of stuff as well as the system grows. But that's going to have something we have to develop over time. So your contributions, your support all helps. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, AI Intersection. Check out the website. And yeah, so Paul, do you want to share anything before we wrap things up?
No, Eddie, it's already taken like almost 2 hours, so I don't want to add to the length of as you said, there's a lot of sections that have to be spun off into their own separate sort of, I don't want to call them tutorials, but their own explanation, so that it becomes clearer, because a lot of the stuff becomes like repetitive when you go through certain sections. You're referring back to a previous task. So once someone can understand, for instance, what a prompt engineering is and how you structure that, you don't have to every time explain the prompt engineer or read the prompt engineer, because they've just gone through that one video. You don't have to explain the template every time you go back to the template once you've done a template video. You don't have to explain the agent input, as you are saying now, with the agent input and in the copy and paste section. Because,
and by the way, everybody, Paul is our chief operations officer. So I don't know if you knew that or not, but did you know? Did I tell you that yet?
No. I just thought I was a bug on the wall.
No, Paul's our chief operations officer, who's going to be helping with oversee operations for this project. We got really great people coming on the team, getting connected, and so stay tuned, get connected, come on board as a contributor. The more brains that get involved in this project, the faster this project unravels, and the faster we can get it to development. And those who participate the most in this project will have the earliest access to the source code for this project. So, you know, keep in mind, you know, same with your prompt engineering. You get what you put in. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, well, there's a very simple way of putting that. And I'm sure, I don't want to assume everyone knows it, but if you are a person that has been trying to improve your life, you probably have come across this quote. Hang around with 6 broke people, you will be the 7th broke person. Hang around with 7 millionaires, and you're bound to be the 8th millionaire. So the same thing here. If you are giving your prompts decent, or if you, in your prompt engineering, are giving your agent or your AGI best prompts possible, you're going to get the best responses possible. So as I said earlier on, and I don't want to be repetitive as well, because I know I've said it already, but just in closing, and this is like, as much as I'm going to repeat myself, folks, we are trying to create codeless coding here, but unfortunately, it still needs human input, because it doesn't matter how AI automated any business is, that automation still has to be set in motion by a human. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, someone still has to click a button to allow software to do what it needs to do. So whether that means a prompt to get it starting, or getting software going, or in this instance, for instance, initializing an AGI that will then start the process you will still need human intervention. So you as a person, what I'm trying to say is our target market here is the type of person that is going to want to evolve with the times. They are embracing AI technology, but they're also understanding how powerful it can be. But being that, it can either help you or it can work against you. So right now, to save yourself from getting it to work against you, because this is all overwhelming to the average person, and there are a lot of people out there that are trying to bring automation into their lives, and that was even before AI. There's, I mean, autoresponders, there's instant messengers, there's everything started going towards the automation of life once the internet came about. I mean, people don't write letters anymore. I hardly see people writing letters because the computer came along. They type letters. Then once they said, but why don't we, if we can type letters and we're on the internet, why don't we create emailing systems? Now it's digital. So you can get an email from 100 people in one day, whereas your postman is not going to deliver 100 letters in one day because it just doesn't happen anymore. So this is to appeal, or this is appealing to those people that are really embracing and evolving with the times. And if you are the type of person that's going to evolve, you do need a certain level of input and a certain level of knowledge to be able to use the system. So that being said, there will be tutorial videos on the individual components and how to understand those components within this diagram that you're seeing now. And then once you understand those individual components, you can put them all together like a puzzle, and it will, the broader picture of your application of this will be realized. So I hope that was a sort of a briefer version of what I could say about it. Because right now, as Eddie was, trying to explain the flow, he was also trying to touch on this, touch on that. And I think some people may just have got lost in this. But as we said, we will make those individual videos so that you understand that component, you understand that component, you understand that component a little bit better, so that it's going to be easier to understand. As Eddie was saying, this, that, then oh, okay, I know that. Okay, now I see what the broader pictures mean.
Yeah, we're going to be setting this up, guys. We're going to have not only the Patreon access. In the Patreon, you're going to have access to advanced, in-depth videos like this. We do pretty much daily collaborative coding sessions. They happen all different times throughout the day. So basically, we get on Zoom, we talk about things. When I say coding, it means we're reading. We're reading through documentation. We're creating ideas. We're injecting ideas into the system, right? So we're making things more streamlined. We do collaborative coding days pretty much every day.
Maybe you can call it brainstorming rather than coding. Brainstorming. It involves coding as well.
It is collaborative. It is very specific. It is collaborative code. Just understand when we say coding, we're talking about conversational coding. Okay. So now what I want to say too is so if you want to get involved, we're going to be displaying it. We're also going to be releasing, and this is a big announcement, we're going to be releasing Eden University. Now, Eden University is going to be an in-depth, you're going to have, obviously Patreon's going to be getting more in-depth videos, but in Eden University, you will have access to the full training, every single thing you need to know about it. Now, these are not trade secrets. The code will be released open source. Everybody will just download the entire code, and the entire, when I say code, I mean the conversation, the Eden overview, the master overview document, which is all you need to be able to code your system effectively. Now, obviously, you need to install files and all this kind of stuff. But those things are, if you know how to do them already, you can do them. If you don't, and you need help with that, that's what we do in Patreon. But more specifically, that's what we're going to be doing in Eden University. So Eden University is going to basically break down everything in a completely organized fashion for you to be able to use however, in whatever way you want to use it. This will be your system, and you will turn it on just like you turn on a sports car. And however you want to use this system, it's up to you. but we will show you the inner workings. Coaching will be available. Individuals who want to come on board as contributors and they learn how the system works and you want to start coaching, consulting business, you can do that. It's all open source. You can do whatever you want with this. If you want to go start a business where you help integrate this into people's lives, you can do that. That's up to you, however you want to do it. So in order to help that process and help more people find out about it, I am going to be creating a way for all of you to make money on this too in the process, because a lot of people want to know, how can this convert to real money for me right now? Maybe that's something that you're thinking about. Well, we want to have everybody be part of the pie and everybody be incentivized to help grow this project. So eventually you will also be able to make some money as well by helping people get connected to the course. If you help people get connected to the course, you can make a little money on that as well. And you can you'll be in the program, and you can offer your services as a concept, and you can become an official EdenAGI integration consultant. Okay, so you can basically have people, because all this stuff is going to be out there, open source. Anybody could technically learn it, but some people need that little bit of help. Some people need somebody to help guide them through the process, like a navigator, to navigate them how to do things, how to place things, how to integrate things. And that is what Eden navigators are going to be for. EdenAGI navigators will be able to make money on this too, to make money to help people do this, because your time is worth money. Speaking of which, I mean, and I'll show you, and I'm going to show you how I do all the stuff I'm doing right now. I do coaching through Clarity FM. I'm looking to get to a new platform that includes video. But if you get one-on-one coaching with me through Clarity FM using the link in the description, I will include a Zoom video call as well, in addition to the voice call that we do. So we'll do the voice call as consultation time, but I'm also going to extend some time to you in Zoom so we can do some screen sharing and talk about your needs for prompt engineering, AI development, integration, those types of things. So make sure to check out the links in the video description. I hope this is a good video. I think this is a good video. It's very exhaustive. We went through a lot of stuff in this video. You might have to go back and watch it several times, and that's okay. But hopefully you kind of got the idea of what's happening. You kind of could envision yourself using this system and how to use it. That's really the first step. So, Paul, if there's nothing else, we're gonna sign off. You want to share anything else?
No. I already said what I said just now. I don't want to, like I said, I wasn't expecting you to have another conversation after me, but anyway, we just need to, apart from the video now, just carry on discussing what needs to happen in terms of the knowledge that we want to share with people. So once you're done with this video, you can end it, and then we can just discuss privately. So that's all I can say.
Yep, that sounds good, man. Well, I guess that kind of explains it. So, until next time, everybody, happy programming and take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.